Welcome to this presentation on the Inventory for Work, Aptitude and Motivation, the iWAM Resource Guide. Here we're going to give you some background information, we'll look at context, understanding motivation and attitudinal patterns, and we'll look at some situational examples. First of all, background. So iWAM is a profiling technology that identifies certain thought processes, thinking patterns and behaviour patterns. The technology has been used in a range of businesses around the world, in particular in the USA and in Europe since 1981. The iWAM profile is an online questionnaire, and it creates 48 scales or patterns within an individual. This allows a better understanding of the nature and role of motivation and human behaviour and performance during a specific context. You can predict that person's performance in a specific context, for instance, obviously in the workplace. You will know how various language and conditions motivate or demotivate a person. You can match the right people with the right tasks to ensure, obviously, high performance and excellent performance in that area, in that specific role. You can understand a group's performance in a context, so you can look at a group of individuals and how they would relate to one another and interplay. Context. A person usually changes their behaviour, thinking and language patterns from one context to another. Usually there are differences in a person's patterns at work or at home. And this is how we need to look at it. Rarely can you predict a person's behaviour in a complex situation from just one of the scales in iWAM. You have to look at and interpret multiple scales to create a sort of accurate picture of how a person behaves. So let's give you some of the patterns. Just going to give you a few just so you get an understanding. This category is called action level, and the scale title is initiation. If you score highly on this one, you would display a proactive approach. The person is initiating tasks, wants to get on with it, jumps straight in without evaluating the consequences, and wants to make things happen. If you score low on this, on initiation, then you are not motivated to take action quickly. You're more likely to wait until a response is needed. So that is action level, that's initiation. The motivational language you can use with people can be very important, and this involves words like initiate, start, just do it, begin. So those people that have a strong preference in initiation use this type of motivational language. Also, you can use some other questions to help move people on and communicate in a more effective way. So for this pattern, you would use how fast can that happen? What will you do now? What initiative do you want to take? So that concludes action level initiation. Let's look at a different scale title. Look at reflection and patience. It's still in the category of action level, and if you score highly in this area, you display a lot of patience. You reflect, analyse first. People seem to work at their own pace. They tend to think things through first, may put things off until the last moment, however, and they may spend too much time in analysis and have analysis paralysis. If you score lowly on this scale, then you're not particularly motivated to respond to external events. You may not be willing to be patient when required, and may actually initiate too quickly. So that's the action level in terms of reflection and patience. Motivational language that you can use? Well, all in good time, be patient, wait and see, let's consider this for a moment. Leading questions that you can use with this type of pattern. How do you evaluate the current situation? What needs to be thought about or considered? What is appropriate timing? This category looks at task orientation. So we're going to look at the first one. Scale title is breadth. If you score highly in this, you like to work and have a preference to work with an overview. You like to think in broad terms, broad horizons. You understand the big picture. You do spot relevant issues, might miss some details, and have trouble keeping attention on the details for long periods. If you score low on this particular pattern, then you have less interest in the big picture. You may be able to maintain a narrow focus. You might find delegating difficult, and actually might be considered a bit of a nitpicker. Here are some of the motivational language points. Use terms like the big picture, overview, global, and questions like, can you give me an overview? Where does this example fit into the larger whole or the bigger picture? These are the types of things that you can say to a person who is more in breadth, more in this overview, more in this sort of big picture thinking. The scale title depth orientation looks at the details. So if you score highly in this, you consider the details important. You want specific information, you like the detail, you need detailed knowledge, and actual detailed knowledge is motivating for you. Able to work sequentially and orderly, and will do exactly what needs to be done. You may not see the wood for the trees though. It's that whole idea of the big picture, going from the detail to the big picture. If you score low on this pattern, you find actually the details may be demotivating, and you might not get caught up in the details. You may neglect the details actually. The motivational language you can use with this pattern: specific, detail, precise, sequential. And questions: can you be more specific? What are the details? Let's work out the details and the steps. So with someone with this type of pattern, this is the appropriate language to use, which will be more motivating and more appealing to them. So here is a situation. Tom is a senior assistant to a project manager. Once motivated and very productive, now facing appraisal as he's unenthusiastic, has low morale, unable to be coached for high productivity, probably not capable of holding his position anymore within the company. Tom's goal: to obviously like the job again and become motivated, and the company's goal was obviously to get him working to a higher performance level and increase productivity. So iWAM consultant revealed an issue. The manager and assistant were actually motivated by two totally different factors, opposites in fact. Coaching helped them both understand the differences and adjust their communication style. Now this obviously led to an improved relationship and therefore higher productivity for both. iWAM made it possible for the manager to motivate Tom again. Tom said his life had actually turned around, he's back to being enthusiastic and productive at work. Next situation: identify the next generation of managers. This is the situation. City government used iWAM to identify high potential employees to enrol in a coaching and development program to become their next generation of managers. What they needed was an inexpensive, fast solution to narrowing the field of several hundred applicants. Candidates were sent a link to the online questionnaire, and the company received the feedback report. These were then compared to the model created to profile desired future leaders. So they compared the questionnaire results, the patterns, to the patterns of the future leaders that they would want. This was a big success because it was fast. The execution time was only 6 weeks, and the field was narrowed to the best 10%. So here are the elements of the report. Initially, at the start of the report, it goes into a lot of detail on the specific action levels, such as initiation and reflecting and patience. So you can see by the top there, there's a lot of detail around how that person is motivated, how that pattern works. So you can take a look at that in more detail. On the bottom right hand side, you can see a chart where it indicates all the patterns on the left hand side, some of the key language phrases you can use with that type of pattern, and then a chart, almost like a slider switch in reference to where that person sits on the cohort of the country. So there's a lot of research that's been done, an analysis on that specific country, so we can look at it and compare it to the cohort, as it were. So the green line indicates where that person is, and the red band is the cohort group. This is really useful because you can actually get the idea of how that person might be perceived in that particular environment, in that particular country. And as you can see on the left hand side, you've got an overview of the mastery areas and some of the keys. The iWAM profiling system highlights the key preferences that a person has within the workplace. These patterns are just preferences. It doesn't mean that the person can't work in a particular way or a particular different pattern. It just means that they prefer that type of pattern. There's no right or wrong about it. And by working with these preferences, a company can get the best from their people. So there's some of the elements of the report. Obviously there's a lot more to it, and if you would like a consultation or would like to meet further about it, you can contact us. So for more information, please contact us on info@peakperformancetraining.com.au. My telephone number is 0414 630 180. Do contact us if you have any more questions or want to talk further about how we can help you.